So we all know that young women are much less likely to pursue education or careers in science, technology, engineering, math than from the very beginning, right? So a lot fewer women go into these fields than men do. But the thing that I find even more alarming is the rate at which women drop out. And I've got a couple of stats here. These are from the Million Women Mentors. And they have a website if you want to. They have a lot of great stuff up there. So that's really concerning because technology is a really great opportunity for women. And Carolyn talked about that last night. First of all, wages, the wage differential between careers in science and technology is much less. So the wage differential between women and men is much less in science and technology than it is in other fields. But Carolyn really made a great point in that women have a lot to offer. And technology is central to everything that happens today. So we really need more women in technology. So I was thinking about, so what is it that we can do to help that, to get those numbers going back up again? Because, WITI was founded 25 years ago, and I remember that year. And I remember all the passionate women who were like, we've got to change this. And it really hasn't changed. Why hasn't it changed? So one of the things that we can do as women who have been around a while is that we can tell our stories, and we can draw from our stories some lessons that may be helpful to those who come after us. Whether it's young girls starting out and thinking about, gee, maybe a career in technology would be good for me, or whether it's women mid-career who are thinking, do I want to stick with this? Is there more that I can contribute here? Is there more that I can do? And do I want to really go for the brass ring? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we've got an awesome, awesome panel of very accomplished women CIOs who have had long and very successful careers in technology. So starting from my end, we've got Cora Carmody from Jacobs Engineering, Theresa Wilson from Wells Fargo, Sheleen Quish, most recently from Ameristar Casinos, Cindy Elkins from Genentech, and Marie Gutgesell from Nielsen Research. And so I'm going to start by just asking them to briefly tell you a little bit about, just talk about a little bit about your company and what the priorities are today. Where does technology fit in IT? And specifically, how does your role fit in? Where do you add value to your business? So, Cora, you want to start?
Sure, Abby. Can you hear me? Is this on?
I believe so.
I'll move it up a little bit. All right, I'm the CIO of Jacobs Engineering. We're a large global engineering and professional services company. There's pretty much no aspect of engineering that we don't do. We build bridges, refineries, pharmaceutical, engineering facilities, data centers. We're global. My IT team is very global. I have about 1,400 people in about 25 different countries. I haven't gone to all of them yet, but one of the different aspects of Jacobs, we grow by acquisition and organically every year, and it was very surprising to me to be pulled into that, not as a CIO, but just as an engineer and as a general manager. So I went off and did a couple due diligences and actually bought companies. One was a wastewater company, something I have no background in. And I saw our stock rise 6% the day that we closed on that, and that was a very powerful feeling. And so that's, I guess, a good foundation.
Great, thanks. Theresa.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Theresa Wilson, and I am the CIO of Consumer Lending Technology. And what that means is I provide technology, my team and I provide technology services for any type of lending that you want to do with the consumer. At Wells Fargo, our priorities is obviously to be able to ensure that you as a consumer and others are financially able to do things that you want to do in life. And so that is our goal, is to help you out. So that's a priority for us. We want to be able to delight you with our services and continue helping you with your finances. That means that technology is very key to all of the lines of businesses within Wells Fargo. I don't believe they could move without technology. And so within Wells Fargo, we also have a very much a focus around diversity, especially women. And so you will see within the technology space a lot of focus on women being in this area, and not just being what I would call developers, but actually helping move in the executive world. That is a big focus for Wells Fargo. Within my space, within consumer lending, we have technology from all aspects. And I wanted to tell a brief story, which was some of the comments around, not just focusing on women, but that women are in the jobs because they can do the jobs, and you don't just say, oh, there's a woman there. And the story I wanted to tell you is that I had the fortunate to be able to bring a group together over the last 2 years. I have the largest technology group within Wells Fargo. And over time, I have 50% women and 50% men who report directly to me as chief technology officers. And the comments I get are, oh, what are you doing bringing all these women? And I said, no, I bring in the talent.
Hi, I'm Sheleen Quish. When people think of casinos, probably you think of just the machines on the floor. But the reality is at Ameristar Casinos and many other casino companies, we are running spas, hotels, entertainment, and the casino itself. So the IT focus is really twofold. One is the guest experience and being able to appreciate all the different aspects of the offerings, and being able to deliver those services in a way that are efficient and exciting at the same time, while we're capturing every bit of data we can possibly get on everything you would think of doing that we could actually capture, because that data makes us smarter and helps us fine-tune our products. In addition, we're running the company in each one of these multiple facilities all around the country, behind the scenes with the best technology we can to obviously lower our costs. The world of casinos has changed dramatically, changed in 2008 when the recession hit, and we had to start running things like real businesses and really delve down into true process management and use technology at every step of the way to make our operations efficient. As now the economy is returning and improving, the efficiencies that we have put in have made us the most profitable casino company in the United States, which allowed us to become acquired very recently by Pinnacle Entertainment. So technology is integrated into everything we do, and although it has never really been the forefront of our business, it certainly is today, and that's happening across the entire industry. A great opportunity for many people as they look into future careers.
Well, and Sheleen, please also share your role in that purchase by Pinnacle.
My role in the purchase is Chief Integration Officer. So for the last year, I've been working with both companies, working with each and every department to figure out how are we going to put it together. How are we going to bring our processes together? How are we going to bring our talent together? How are we going to build the best possible company to support 18 properties, and actually we're in the process of acquiring others. How are we going to use the talent to the best of the company's advantage? And at the same time, the reality is when you put two companies together, you do want to have savings, and so not everybody's going to make the cut. How do you do that in a fair and equitable way? How do you sift through it and do it with full transparency so that no one is surprised as to what's going to happen next? It's been a very, I would say, intense, but because we, from the very beginning, all agreed, both the company that's acquiring us and the board of our company, we all agreed we would embrace the concept of transparency. It has been a very, I would say, productive and open process.
Great, thanks.
Great.
Cindy.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Elkins, and I head up IT for the Americas for Genentech. Has anybody heard of Genentech? Okay. I had a horrible moment with a software rep one time. He said, oh, I know people that use your product. They're great. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. You probably don't know what we do. So Genentech, we were acquired 5 years ago by Roche, based in Basel, Switzerland, a $45 billion company. Genentech remains the US brand, and our products are focused on oncology, immunology, ophthalmology, and a rich portfolio of products that are basically trying to bring better outcomes for patients dealing with extremely serious illnesses. So I grew up in high tech, so this is my first biotech company, and it's been quite an amazing learning curve. And the role that IT plays is really to make sure that we never, ever impact the ability to discover or move a molecule through all the way of the trial, through manufacturing, through the commercialization of that product, that we never interrupt that process. That in fact we are there to accelerate the ability of our company to get life-changing medicine to patients as fast as we possibly can. So I view my role as just trying to get the best people together every single day with that mission in mind, to stay focused on the patient as clearly as we possibly can, and to make sure that IT is helping everybody make that future come true.
Thank you. Marie.
And I'm Marie Gutgesell with the Nielsen Company. I am the CIO for our watch products. Nielsen, we help consumers to be more profitable by helping people understand what people watch and what they buy. Our watch products, we can think about them in terms of 3 R's. Who reaches, what content is reached, whether it resonates with the audience, and ultimately, what reaction does that audience take? Does their behavior or sales change as a result of it? So our technology platforms build all of those products. We do data collection, data integration, and then finally all the analytical products that our end clients actually use.
Great. And in terms of your personal role in forwarding the business?
So my role as the CIO is all of the technology that builds all of the technology platforms reports to me.
Oh, great. So, you know, I heard a lot of helping as we went through, and not a lot about technology until the end, because what you do is so technology focused. So, so how did you all get interested in technology in the first place? How did you get your start? And why don't we start with you, Marie, and we'll come back this way.
So, you know, it was interesting for me because I really love technology, and I grew up within the ranks of technology as a programmer into the role of CIO, and I sort of lucked into getting into a STEM career. Like many kids, didn't really know what I wanted to do when I got out of high school. My father happened to be an engineer, and so it was really sort of fortunate for me that I chose an engineering degree. I have a computer science degree. And once I got out of school, it was something that I really felt that I loved. I loved the creative aspects of software development. And I really felt like that my communication skills allowed me to connect the business with the technology. And so STEM career was something that while I have been successful, you know, I really sort of lucked into it, which was sort of an interesting way to start.
Yeah, so my story kind of started when I was pretty little. So my dad worked for Control Data. Anybody remember Control Data? Woo! Yes, way ahead of its time. And the original cloud through timeshare. Anyway, different conference. So when I was little, I am an only child. I remember very distinctly my mom and I waiting for my dad to get done with work at the data center in Los Angeles, California. And so I spent a lot of time in that parking lot, but more importantly, it's so funny that Cisco videoed those views of the old data centers. It's exactly where I would go see my dad. And I mean, I remember it to this day. And I think very influential in kind of how I got into this field. And then in 7th grade, one of my teachers talked to my parents and said, you know, Cindy's pretty good at math, and she seems to like it. And I did. I loved math. And he said, well, I'm going to put her in the AP class, and we'll see what happens. And that kind of really formed the rest of my educational future. So I got my bachelor's degree in applied math, and then went on for an MBA, et cetera. And then as I came out of college, there was my dad again. And he was, now we were in the Silicon Valley, and he was selling and partnering with Digital Equipment Corporation. And he helped me get my first job at Digital as a programmer. And I am not a good programmer, let's just be clear. That is not pretty code. So kind of the rest is, business analyst, project manager, et cetera, that type of thing. But, I think I never realized how important it was to see my family kind of grow up in that world. And so that was a big deal for me.
And Sheleen, you have an unusual background for a technology person.
I have absolutely no technical background. I have absolutely no STEM in my background. I'm a fine arts major. And my whole focus was on, because I wasn't very good at art actually either. And I knew I wasn't going to make a living painting. I decided I wasn't going to fall back and be an art teacher. So I went into actually public relations and marketing. Because those are the people that were hiring when I was getting out of school, and I kind of talked myself into those jobs. What I found, though, was that I had a very strong talent to getting things done and a very strong orientation to process management. And what's interesting is years later, I hired a CIO to work for me, and he said, Sheleen, you are really interesting. He said, I don't know how your mind works. It's kind of like right, left, and kind of mixed up. He said, but if you had ever been exposed to anything, you probably would have been a great programmer. I was like, oh, that's so nice. But let's get some people to do this stuff. But the reality is that as I moved through my career, I saw that there were things that would help solve problems and get things done faster and get the processes moving. So like you go way back to marketing at Humana, and we were building proposals for the Humana Care Plus product that was the first managed care product by a hospital company, like in the 80s. And the proposals were all being individually done at the printer. And I'm the idiot who was at the printer every night and on weekends with my kids in the stroller. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And somebody in IT had a friend at IBM who I said, okay, I'll talk to them. And we put in the first display writer. Wow, that was like big. Pretty soon the whole company had display writers. Think about, that really isn't that many decades ago, but the transformation. So that was like a little clue to me that tools, go for the tools, get the right tools. It doesn't matter if nobody else knows what they are, how they work, there's a way to get it done. And then as I went through my career and went from marketing into operations, which is probably a book, I think, that story, I realized that IT was the biggest toolbox I could get, and I actually asked for IT to report to me in my operations role, and the rest is history. So the whole point of that story is you can get in lots of different doors into technology. Don't let any door stop you. There are many, many ways. There's educational opportunities, there's organizational, administrative opportunities. You don't have to be a pure technology person to be successful in technology. There's many, many ways to break in and make an impact.
Great, thank you. Theresa?
My story may sound a little familiar here. My dad was one of my inspirations. I was in high school and I excelled in math. I was in all the AP classes, whatever you might consider that, and just excelled in math. But I really didn't want to go to college and major in math. I enjoyed it, but not to make it a career. So my dad, who is a business major, actually was my inspiration. He believed that technology was going to be the future. And it really was just getting started in the 70s. And so he was the one who had made suggestions for me to look into technology. When I got into college, I dabbled with a couple of different curriculum and looking at what did I want to do, and then decide to minor in computer science and majored in mathematics. When I got out of school and was trying to decide where I was going to get a job and so forth, I kind of had a big head and decided that there would be certain companies I would work for because I didn't want to be a gopher. Right off the bat, I knew exactly what I wanted. And so I chose a company that was going to allow me to actually go to work. and be a programmer versus just writing scripts or taking documentation down or minutes and meetings and so forth like that. And after about 18 months to 2 years in doing that, I decided that I wanted to be a leader in the organization. And I do mean the word leader versus just a manager. I wanted to lead people. I wanted to be able to make a difference. I like technology because there's innovation. You can create ideas and then see it to the end, execute, and see something tangible. You can make a difference in the world. And that's what excited me. Plus being able to help others in their career. That was another thing that right off the bat excited me. So since, I guess 18 months to 2 years into my career, this has been something I've always enjoyed doing and continue to enjoy doing it. I want to echo on the comments that was just made here earlier about the fact that I agree with the comments around, don't let anything stop you when it comes to technology. I have seen and helped administrative assistants that have come through the doors, and they are great programmers today. There are CIOs and CEOs that are out in the field today working for smaller companies that they personally will say, I was the one that helped them with their career. And so, to me, you need to give back plus help yourself in moving forward.
What they said. I think I made my decisions based on passion, efficiency, and economics. I was good in math in high school, but didn't plan to use it. I wanted to be a writer. I liked history. I was going to study history. Then I got the opportunity to leave high school a year early and go to college. And that's where I would have had calculus my senior year, but I had it freshman year of college and fell in love with it. Then again, based on efficiency and economics, I chose to go to Johns Hopkins because they offered me more money than the University of Chicago. And they also had lacrosse and field hockey, which I played in high school and junior high. And they had a combined bachelor's, master's in math, which was very efficient to me. I never intended to do anything. I studied pure math. Back in that day, there were no computer science majors, but there was math science, but I wanted pure math, real analysis, calculus to a graduate level. Then when I was getting ready to leave, I thought I needed to do something to support myself while I was waiting for my writing to take off. I had wanted to be an astronaut, but I'm extremely nearsighted, so that wasn't a possibility. And because I was getting a graduate degree in mathematics, a company was headhunting that year. They wanted programmers who could program math algorithms, nothing really complicated, pretty much what you would do in 8th grade math. But it looked appealing, and they were going to send me to Los Angeles to work on a project for digital imagery exploitation for the US Air Force. The other job offer I had was to work for NSA as a cryptanalysis, a code breaker. Again, economics paid off. The programming paid more. It was so, I started in 1978 as a computer programmer without ever actually having touched a computer because they weren't very prevalent. I started programming and fell in love with computers.
So one of the things that really struck me listening to all of your stories is that it kind of echoed something somebody said this morning, which is that you don't necessarily know what your path is going to be. You take the next step, and then another door opens, and you take the next step. But I'm curious to know, so as you get further into your careers, what have been the most important factors that you've weighed when you've been offered a new opportunity or a new assignment, and you've already had some success, something comes along? What is it that goes into whether or not that job is for you? Anybody can take this.
I'll go first. For me, it's always the challenge. I like difficult challenges. I'll never forget at one point in my career, I was offered an opportunity to go work on a project that was considered very, very, you wouldn't usually do. And one reason I say that is because what we were doing was building a system that you could go out and buy vendor software to do. but we had chosen to go and build it ourselves just because of the innovation we wanted to put behind it. And if we bought a vendor package, we'd have to customize it, and it just would take longer and so forth. So what was interesting is that there were a lot of males that were bidding for, or politicking, we'll put it that way, for the position. And I really wasn't at that time because I had just moved into a new role, and you know, had decided that I wasn't going to try to play in that game for right then and there. But what happened was I was asked to go do the role out of all my male friends. And what they told me, my male friends, was, you'll fail, you won't get it done, and then they'll step in and save me. I proved them all wrong. I love challenges.
I had a very pivotal opportunity when a boss said to me, Sheleen, he was new to the company, brand new CEO. He said, I've been here 3 weeks and I've heard a number of people mention that you're the go-to person to get things done. And I was the director of marketing at that time. And he said, so I'm going to ask you a question. Do you want to be a staff person or a line person? And I actually at the moment did not know what he meant, what the difference was. And I said, I want to lead people and I want to make a difference. He said, okay, fine. Then I'm going to give you the departments where we have the biggest problems and let's see what you can do with them. And so I think that's, when you talk about challenge, it's all about doing something new and different, recognizing that you actually have absolutely no experience or knowledge of that particular thing, but you do it anyway, and take the risk. Because what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, you'll go do something else, right? Failure is an opportunity to learn. Failure is not the end of the story, in my opinion. And so I took the risk and took over customer service at a large insurance company, Blue Cross of Kentucky, 200 people who were basically providing the lowest possible service you could possibly offer. We were at the bottom of the food chain in the Blue Cross system. We were despised by the people of Kentucky, was kind of the bottom line. And it didn't take long to turn it around, not because I knew anything about customer service, and frankly, being in marketing, doing advertising and all the fun stuff, I had never even walked onto that floor, believe it or not. That's how removed I was from the reality of the business. And what I did, because I had to do it, was to sit down and talk to the people who interacted with our customers and find out from them how they thought the business could improve. And they had hundreds of fantastic ideas. And what I did was I helped push the obstacles out of the way so that their ideas could be implemented. And it was very obvious that you could make a huge difference with very little effort, especially if you were able to leverage technology. Small example, you all know what an explanation of benefit is, you know, that little sheet of paper that tells you what claims are paid, and you all know what a claims payment is, right? Well, in those days, they were sending them in 2 separate envelopes at 2 separate times, both of which generated 5 different phone calls. Wow. How ridiculous. So I asked, why don't we put them together? And they said, IT won't do it. So I went to IT and I said, why do we put this in 2 different envelopes? They said, well, that's the way operations told us to do it. I said, well, what if you just put them in 1 envelope? Oh, that'd be easy. All we have to do is change one setting. I was like, oh my God, just shoot me now. So, you know, you take 100 of those things, do you look like a hero or what? I mean, every company has those opportunities. There's lots of little things. And so it took off from there. And but it's those little questions and those little moments where you have those opportunities. You have to just step up, take the challenge, take the risk, and do it.
And specifically, you mentioned opportunity to learn. I think if you were to look at your career, look at where you are at any point in time, if you look out maybe 3 to 5 years in the future and pick out somebody or some role that you want, you can build a career map and you can look at the gaps between the skills that you have today and the skills that are required for that next level of position. Then you can strategically find the roles that help you fill those gaps. This was a piece of advice that someone gave to me early on in my career, and it really works. It really works, and it helps you to figure out strategically what that next role should be for you. And you look at it more from not what you have, that you can fill that role with, but what you're missing and what that role will give you the opportunity to learn and to fill in the skill gaps that you need. And that's something that's always been a strategy that's worked for me.
So it was either Kim or Kara mentioned Maria Klawe from Harvey Mudd College, and she had an article in Slate recently where she talked about the imposter syndrome. Now, you are all extremely confident women, but I wonder if even as, and what Maria wrote was that, that even the most successful people have this feeling at times of being an imposter, of not really deserving to be where they are and have what they have. And that's especially strong in situations where you're sort of in an underrepresented community, so women in IT, because there aren't that many of them. So I'm curious, have any of you ever suffered from the imposter syndrome, and when does it come up and what do you do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, so we've all heard people talk about this inner critic, right? That really nagging, horrible voice in our heads. Everybody has it. So we've done some stuff in our teams at work where we name it. So mine's name is Sylvia. Sylvia and I have a very interesting relationship, and she oftentimes takes credit for everything good in my life, and I had just had enough of Sylvia. And a very good friend of mine in my team at work, she said, Cindy, who is your inner superhero? Who is the voice that tells you could do anything? And I thought about it, and I said, it's my grandma, Evelyn. So I have named my inner superhero Evelyn. And so far she's winning over Sylvia. But I absolutely encourage everybody to listen and to find your cheering section, because it's all too easy to get sucked into your inner critic, and they are ruthless. They know way too much about us, right? And just find that voice that is like, you can do it, Don't let anything stop you. Don't listen to those other people. You're gonna be great. You are great. And have that in your head and in your heart as much as you can. Because it's all too easy to feel out of place, or to feel, oh, I've never done that before, and everybody knows that I should wear a sign that says it. Cindy has never done that before. And versus there's Cindy, look at that, she can do it. But it starts with, I can do it, and I have done it. So that would be my go inner superhero talk.
Well, there was some really interesting research in an Atlantic article recently that it was done at HP, and they looked at people applying for next step up positions, and the women who were applying for the positions only applied when they felt that they had 100% of the experience and skills for the job, whereas the men who were applying applied when they felt they had 60%. So, Sheleen, I think you type out of and I think actually a lot of you type out of that classification. But so you've all taken stretch assignments. What gives you the confidence to do that? To say, no, I can do that, and I can learn to fill in the gaps.
Well, I guess relative to the imposter syndrome, when I mentor people in IT, I always say that if I waited until I thought I was ready to be a CIO, I'd still be waiting. You just have to take that first step. I mentioned the M&A when that was the CEO's idea, and I'd never been involved with M&A at all, and he told me that day. And so the first 4 days, I was hoping he would change his mind about buying that particular business, because I'd never done it before. But I read the business process, and in it said that the due diligence team leader needs to make the company being acquired feel comfortable about being acquired. I thought, okay, I can do that. And I got a team together, and it worked. It means, I guess, just taking risks, taking chances. And it helps when you're in an environment where it's okay to have problems if you surface them early and often.
Within the financial business, we aren't just providing technology, we're also great partners with the business. So we have to understand the business to a degree. We need to understand what it means to take do loans as far as mortgage loans and things like that. And so, or being able to understand credit card as far as an application is concerned, and whether someone is approved or denied and so forth. And one of the things that I liked when I take on those new opportunities and so forth is I come already with credit as far as credibility around technology, but it's the business that I will get comments around, well, you don't know my business, so why are you here? Things like that. And to me, that's even more of an opportunity to show that the breadth of my knowledge, that it's not just focused in one area in technology, it's also focused on the business too. And I always love it that within 3 to 4 months that I will hear from that executive of a business stating to me, they want me at the table with them on a personal level just because I've become an advisor or a consultant. And so forth. So it's always, to me, is to being able to, not just from a technology point of view, but more from the business point of view of really winning over that business that we are an advisor to them.
Is it ever a good idea to, somebody this morning mentioned taking a lateral move or even a step down? That seems to me like a pretty risky thing to do. When is it a good idea?
I've done it many times. So I've gone from director to manager, VP to director, manager to individual contributor. So I think it's a good idea, a lot like what the other folks said here today. For me, when I can see a very steep learning curve, title's never been that important to me. I mean, I want it to be fair. And I want, the work to be recognized. But ultimately, I think if you can see an opportunity and you love a learning curve, or you're going to run into the the building that's on fire and everyone else is running out, you're going to run in. My advice would be, don't worry about the title. Get the work, do what you do best, get a great team together, and that stuff will happen. That's a little, I've heard other studies it maybe isn't really how it all goes. That would be Cindy, the eternal optimist, saying that. But yeah, I think it's
Evelyn or Sylvia?
That's Evelyn. my grandma's like, run in the firing building, run to the fire. So it's opportunity. But yeah, I think lateral moves, down moves, that type of stuff, follow your passion, follow your heart, follow a great team, and the rest will work itself out.
Well, and it sounds too that, in what you said and what you said, Cindy, that you can't just stay focused on sort of conventional wisdom. It's like, you got to look at the current situation and think about what's going to make it work in this, not just what have other people done, but what's really going to matter here. And also, having that view of where you're heading so that the lateral move doesn't take you backwards or to an offside shoot, but helps you get forward.
The reality is that this is the story of your life, not just a resume. This is not just a list of jobs that you've had in your life. This is the story of your life, and it should make you happy, it should make you grow, it should tap into all the things you're passionate about. And so when you look at your career, it's the story that you tell that links all the things together that made it meaningful for you. They're going to resonate with the next employer or the next employer. And if that employer doesn't get it, then maybe that isn't the place for you anyway.
Marie?
Yeah, I was just going to add one comment to this, and that's, in addition to learning new things and sort of navigating a path that might be a little more circular than what you think, I think we also underestimate how important it is to work for someone. that you can learn from and that you relate to. So, I've had instances where I've taken one job or the other, depending on who that direct boss is. And there are a lot of reasons why your direct boss can help you. You can learn from that person, different style, not necessarily always taking a position with a direct boss that's like you, so not a style match necessarily. Sometimes it's the opposite. And sometimes that person can help you lead to the next step in your career as well. So I always, in addition to the challenge of a particular opportunity, I do really interview my boss as well, and I think that's an important component.
So is it enough to admire what they do and how they do it, or do you also have to know that they're going to, coach you and bring you along?
Well, you have to start out with the first. You don't always know necessarily. And so, I would say start out with what you admire about that person and what you think you might be able to gain from them. But to the extent that the second doesn't come and you don't find that person is willing to both mentor and sponsor you, then, I would also advocate making a change.
Yeah, I was going to say that, you don't always have that luxury. I agree with your comments, but, a lot of times you don't always have that luxury of having that boss that is your mentor or your person that's really helping you. And so you need to figure out who within your organization that can help you or make the change, like you say. Because I've seen too many times where people get caught in the rut and just feel like there's no way out. And I do believe there is other ways of getting to your goals.
Right. So one of the things that we talked about beforehand was the difference between mentors and sponsors. And can you just talk a little bit about what is the difference and how do you go out and get one?
So for me, the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, I think of a mentor as someone who coaches, who provides you advice, who gives you information. For me, a sponsor is different. So I think of a sponsor as someone who will stick their neck out for you. That person is much more invested, and so it's much more difficult to obtain a sponsor than a mentor. Typically, people like helping you. So I find that if you develop a relationship with someone and you ask for some help, most people, more often than not, will gladly offer it. Sponsors, however, a little trickier. You have to earn their respect, and you also have to ask, though. You have to ask people, and you have to be willing to share what your goals are, and you have to ask them to help you. My experience is that sponsors need to be at least 2 levels above you in an organization because they have to have clout. They have to be able to open doors. And it's very difficult, but I think women specifically underestimate the power, and this is sort of thinking, we live in a man's world, and more often than not we have to think like men. Men don't get places on their own either. Right. We all like to think that everybody gets to somewhere based on just what they're able to do. I don't know that that's enough in this world for men or women. I think we all have to learn how to navigate the corporate ladder, and I think sponsors and mentors are an important part of that.
So you saw the numbers at the beginning. Why are women dropping out of technology? What happens?
Yeah, I mean, it can get a little lonely, to be honest. The higher up you go, and you're in more and more meetings or boardrooms or executive meetings where it's mostly men. It can get a little lonely. I mean, that was true for me when I was trying to get my math degree, right? I mean, I was in a sorority getting a math degree. I mean, I think I was a sample size of 1. So I think that's real, right? And how we reach out to each other and support each other in that, I think, is a huge challenge. And then just life is so busy. It's just so busy. And, I think that us women trying to have everything, and everybody's writing a lot about that as well, I still think this is a journey that we're on, right? And we're all trying to learn how to do this better and better together, but just to be with each other.
I was in a mid-year review recently, and at our company, a large engineering company, of course, inclusion metrics are always of discussion because we're never as good as we want to be. And one of our operations was talking about what they were doing for inclusion and for upping the number of women in the workforce. And I asked the question that nobody else on the senior management team probably thought of or had a right to ask, and that was, how many lactation rooms do you have in your facility? And he gave me an answer right away because he knew the importance. That ops manager did, that we have 4 in the Houston office and that they're being upgraded for, you know, for quality and ease of use. But the other senior managers at my level are men. I'm the only one. I am a mother of 4 and came back to work nursing each time, so I know what that does to keep women at work.
Awesome.
I think that women, even nowadays, because I have a colleague who's wrestling with this right now, is that they get tired of playing the games. That, you know, men have a tendency to have their cliques. And so it's really hard to, you know, get into that clique. And so I think as women, we need to support each other and, you know, just listen and give direction and or help in giving direction, because it may not always work for everyone. But always think about doing things a different way. Don't always take on that challenge of trying to, you know, climb that ladder the same way. You need to figure out what might be working best. But I find right now, especially a lot of women, is they're at a certain level that's pretty high in the organization. They get tired. No.
I have an anecdote that kind of counters that. I interviewed a high-level person for one of the positions I have open, Enterprise Applications Director. And I interviewed her and then sent her off to lunch with somebody else. I went to lunch with the CEO and the CFO. And after lunch, I gave her her final interview. She goes, well, what did John and Craig say during lunch? And I said, I don't know. We were too busy talking about recipes. which was the actual truth.
I guess one of the questions I have is what are we exposing our daughters and granddaughters to? You know, when you look in their closet, how many little Disney princess dresses are there? Because I think we're really setting them off in the wrong direction at a very early age. And I think that when we program girls to be this little feminine princess exclusively, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying that when that's the exclusive message they get, and that everything about being a girl is very segregated in one tunnel, that is preventing women from being everything they can possibly be. So, you know, I have a granddaughter who's 2.5 years old. My son and his wife are very specific about how they want to raise her. And I'm watching them and learning and seeing how they do this. And there are no princess dresses. There are dolls, there are trucks, there are blocks, there are, you know, lots of arts and crafts stuff. There's puzzles. There's a lot of outdoor activity. There's climbing. They're encouraging risk-taking. It's not gender specific. It's person development. And I have to say that I've criticized a lot of the stuff they've done because it's kind of like not been fun, because they, you know, okay, Mom, you can't do this, and she can't eat that, and I'm like, okay, she can't even have a popsicle, you know, that kind of thing, because no sugar in her life, whatever. But you know what? I have to say now that I really have become so fascinated with the way they're developing her and the things they're exposing her to and not exposing her to, like no television, no cable, and a lot of books. It's all about some very traditional learning things. So I'm not saying that they're like, you know, the gurus of child development, you know, because in the end, the proof is in the pudding. But I guess my challenge to all of us is, how are we interacting with little girls? What are we teaching them? What are we telling them? And how are we developing our little boys? I think we have an opportunity to develop holistic, inclusive children if we're really conscious of it.
So Cora has started this awesome organization. Tell us about Technology Goddesses.
Thank you. So 12 years ago, realizing that in my lifetime, at that point it was 28 years in technology, and the number of women in my position had not materially changed, and unfortunately 36 years now, and it's still the same. I decided to look at this situation and to study what made it different. Now, you see a lot of people investing in trying to attract girls to to colleges or to professions, but that's really a little too late. That if you don't get a girl or a boy, you know, by around 3rd grade to be interested in math and science and engineering, then your odds continue to erode. So I started this program after studying it that I call Technology Goddesses. It's a program within the Girl Scouts because there are several technology badges. However, a lot of average Girl Scout leaders aren't equipped to do those, to lead those. So I put a lot of principles into place, a sustaining chain of mentorship. We think technology is cool, but that doesn't really matter to a 3rd grader. To a 3rd grader, if a 5th grader thinks technology is cool, then that makes a difference. Right. And to a 5th grader, if a 7th grader thinks it's cool to still be involved in technology, and so forth. And so our girls, I do a couple program weekends. This year will be our 10th year of Girl Scout Day Camp. I started the program 12 years ago, and 2 of the 12-year-olds who I started with got out of college 2 years ago and work for Jacobs IT right now. My daughter was in 3rd grade when I started it, and she's just finished up her 2nd year studying IT and supply chain management at Baylor. So I have some meaningful, if not anecdotal, metrics. But we concentrate not just on coding, but on systems integration, on program management, on staff management, the little things that you do to recruit and retain staff are inherent, and to build spirit. We make it cool to be a geek in every way, shape, and manner that we can.
Well, and just share the what you did with the program, the T-shirts.
Oh yeah, well,
because it's not. It doesn't all have to be like sort of. It can be inclusive. It can be inclusive of all the things that.
Well, and speaking of inclusion, and I'm not sure, the T-shirts I made originally, I trademarked Technology Goddesses because I thought that was cool. And I came up with a logo and a color scheme, black and pink, okay? Because that's kind of a timeless creation. But at our day camp, we also take preschoolers, children of volunteers, we call them pixels. And they use the computers and tablets, and we introduced little robots called Spheros last year. We also have a boys unit, Firefox, the alternative browser. And our retention of not just older girls, but the boys who come back, they hate it when they miss camp. The boys come because their parents are volunteers there. And so we make it inclusive, and so our boys are eager to come back and be program aides and instructors as well.
Cool. So we're just about out of time. Oh, we are out of time.
I'm not stepping on your stage.
What's that?
You can go ahead and ask the audience questions. You can still ask something.
Oh, I was going to ask if anybody in the audience had a question. Yeah, so we're very close to out of time, but if there are any questions, we can take 1 or 2.
I'll bring this one over. It's okay.
Hi, my name is Victoria, and I work for Creative Artist Agency. Similar to Sheleen, I didn't have a background in IT. I didn't go to school for IT. I got a bachelor's in law and a bachelor's in journalism, and I've been in IT for the last 18 years. I work for a company that has an 80-person IT department. Of the 80 people, 5 are females. Of the 5 that are females, I'm the only person on the leadership team. We have an 8-person leadership team. So one of my mandates is to try as much as possible to increase diversity, not only in the regards to female, but also of color. I'm the only person of color in an 80-person department. What do you people do as CIOs within your department? First of all, actually, the question is, what are the dynamics like in your IT groups in regards to diversity, females and minorities? And do you each have initiatives to increase diversities within your groups?
Yeah, can I start? I'll be brief. I've been at Jacobs for 6 years, have been the CIO, and when I got there, I think the percentage of women were 16%, and we measure minority metrics only in the US because that's the only place where you're legally allowed to make those comparisons. And so we strive right now, we're about close to 20%, that's still not good enough. One thing that I did was put into place the Rooney Rule. That is, you don't have to hire, you shouldn't ever hire a less qualified female than a male, but if you don't even interview two females, then that's not good. Especially in the infrastructure area, networks and servers, I would get the excuse from the male managers of those groups, there are no women out there. Well, if you don't go try, then you won't find them. They were just, we're now starting to take a more proactive view of recruiting instead of just posting job availabilities to try to go and find. Now, so I look a lot at the minority composition of my staff, and I've been able to surprise the CEO sometimes. Last year, during our annual talent management review, we came to the minority slide, and he said, I bet you have more Asians than anything else, which is kind of a cliche in information technology. I went, flip, 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 flip. No, actually Hispanics right now is the greatest percentage of minorities that I have. So.
Within Wells Fargo, diversity is one of our key areas that we continue to look at every year. And the way, what you just described, one of the ways we look at diversity is through recruiting. If you don't have the pool that's diverse, and diversity is not just based on gender and race, it's based on also military, if you're handicapped and so forth. If you don't have a diverse pool, then how can you hire someone, of diversity? So our recruiters do an excellent job of ensuring that we have a diverse pool so that you can have that opportunity to hire a person, other than a white male. Within my group, I am proud to say we do a very good job of tracking all our statistics and have every year increased in all kinds of different categories. We're fortunate that we can go across the country and look for the diversity because demographics is going to play a lot as to where you might find individuals. And we have within my group, we're able to hire people in those locations so you don't have to move and so forth. So it plays a lot into our role, but it's a key thing for Wells Fargo.
So we are out of time, but before we get off the stage, really quickly, one last piece of advice for someone who may be thinking about dropping out of technology. Let's go down Marie.
Ooh, I don't like this one.
My advice would just be find mentors and sponsors.
Inner superhero and play to win.
Don't give up and don't be afraid to take a risk.
Yeah, I have to agree. Don't give up. And do find those sponsors.
Listen to Evelyn, not Sheleen.
Thank
just
you.
do it.
Thank you all so much.